Before supermarkets, before fast food, and long before the word America was ever spoken, the land was already alive with flavor. Hidden in the forests, rivers, and open plains were dishes crafted not from convenience, but from deep respect for nature. These weren't just meals. They were survival stories, sacred traditions, and the first taste of what we now call American food. Most of us remember the burgers, the pies, and the casseroles that defined the 20th century. But few remember the dishes that came long before. Recipes that shaped early America, then quietly disappeared with time. Today, we're traveling back hundreds of years to rediscover 3 forgotten Native American dishes that defined early America. Foods that built nations, nourished generations, and still whisper their stories through the soil of this land. Let's begin with something ancient, sacred, and surprisingly familiar. The Three Sisters Stew. First, the Three Sisters Stew, the sacred trio of survival. Long before the Founding Fathers, there were 3 sisters standing side by side in every native field. Corn, beans, and squash. Together, they fed a nation before it even had a name. For countless generations, tribes like the Iroquois, Cherokee, and Navajo grew these 3 crops in perfect harmony. Corn stood tall, beans climbed its stalk, and squash spread low, shielding the soil. It wasn't just smart farming. It was ecological genius long before the word existed. When stewed together over a slow fire, these ingredients became the Three Sisters Stew, a warm, earthy meal shared during harvest feasts and tribal gatherings. This dish wasn't just nourishment, it was balance. The corn gave strength, the beans provided protein, and the squash offered vitamins and sweetness. Together, they represented unity, family, and the cycle of life itself. Every bowl told a story of cooperation and gratitude toward the land. When European settlers first arrived, they survived their first harsh winters by learning this very method of farming and cooking for native tribes. Yet over time, those same dishes that saved lives were forgotten, replaced by imported grains and modern convenience foods. But while the Three Sisters fed communities through patience and balance, another forgotten creation was built for endurance, designed not for feasts, but for survival on the move. Let's talk about pemmican, America's first energy bar. Second, pemmican, America's first energy bar. Before protein bars, before trail mix, there was pemmican. A simple, powerful food that kept warriors alive, explorers moving, and entire tribes thriving through brutal winters. Pemmican was born from necessity on the Great Plains. The Cree, Ojibwe, and Lakota tribes created it by drying strips of bison meat, pounding them into a powder, and mixing them with melted fat and wild berries. Once sealed in rawhide pouches, it could last for years, even without refrigeration. This wasn't just a meal. It was innovation, crafted for survival when every calorie mattered. For travelers and hunters covering miles of frozen land, pemmican was life itself. It provided energy, preserved strength, and fit in a single hand. When European fur traders and pioneers learned about it, they adopted it too, carrying native ingenuity into every frontier expedition. Ironically, the same settlers who relied on pemmican later outlawed its trade, fearing it gave indigenous traders an unfair advantage. A sacred food of endurance became a casualty of economic control, forgotten even as it fueled expansion. But while pemmican was built for strength and travel, another humble native dish told a different story. One of patience, simplicity, and respect for the land's quiet gifts. That story begins with acorn bread, the forgotten forest feast. Third, acorn bread, the forgotten forest feast. Hidden beneath oak trees across early America lay a treasure few today would recognize. Acorns. And from them, native tribes created one of the most humble yet powerful foods of all, acorn bread. For tribes like the Miwok, Yokuts, and Cherokee, acorns weren't waste. They were gold. Each autumn, families gathered them by the basketful, leaching out their bitterness with water, then grinding them into a fine, nutty flour. Baked slowly over stones or in earthen ovens, acorn bread was hearty, dense, and deeply connected to the land's rhythm. It was a staple food that could last through harsh winters when hunting failed or crops ran thin. Acorn bread was more than sustenance. It was a lesson in patience and respect. It reminded every generation that the forest would provide if you gave it time and care. When settlers later learned this process, many credited it with helping them endure their earliest years in the New World. Yet today, few Americans even know acorns were once eaten at all. What was once a symbol of self-reliance and gratitude has vanished into obscurity, replaced by processed loaves that forgot the soil beneath them. From the forest to the plains, and across every river and valley, these dishes weren't just food. They were the heartbeat of early America. And even if they faded from our kitchens, their stories still linger, waiting to be remembered. These forgotten recipes remind us that America's earliest flavors were born not from factories or fame, but from harmony with the land, the seasons, and each other. Every dish carried a piece of wisdom, a story of endurance, and a taste of gratitude. As we look back on the foods that built this nation, we're reminded that history isn't just written in books. It's simmering quietly in the pots of those who came before us. If you enjoyed this journey through America's forgotten flavors, make sure to subscribe and join us again as we uncover more stories from the past, here on the America in Time.